Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is a CPA bodybuilder. Today's guest is Trent Corney. Trent, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, Trent, I kind of want to start things off by asking you, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
My two favorite bodybuilders are Arnold and Flex Wheeler. I like Arnold because I'm a little bit of a taller bodybuilder, and he's taller too. And I've always been obsessed with big arms, and I feel like he has some of the best arms ever. Flex Wheeler, I just feel like he has one of the cleanest physiques ever. A lot of guys kind of throw me off with the mass look, the overdoing it a little bit too much in size. So I like more of the cleaner, more aesthetic look.
Awesome, man. Cool. Okay, so at what age, Trent, did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
15, I started going to the gym with my father. The start of high school, I always had aspirations of getting a scholarship, whether it was track or football. Track and football were my two main sports. My dad took me every day before school. We'd work out, and then I would walk to school. And the rest is history. I put on 100 pounds in high school.
Wow. All right. So why don't you talk a little bit, Trent, more in depth about your childhood, your upbringing? So from my understanding, you are originally from Canada. So talk about just what was your childhood like? You said your dad was a pretty big influence in terms of pushing you into sports. So what was life like for you as a youngster?
I was always really into sports. I played all the sports growing up: soccer at the highest level, hockey at a high level. I did track. I was breaking like bunch of records for throwing, like when I was young. To be honest, a lot of kids weren't really throwing. I was throwing javelin and discus when I was like 10 years old, and I was breaking all the records. But to be honest, there wasn't a lot of people throwing, so the records weren't that impressive. But my dad was like a high level track athlete. He almost went to the Olympics for javelin throw. So he had me throwing sticks when I was like, honestly, when I was like 8 years old. I was throwing sticks for technique, and I was always wanted to be, first off, I wanted to be go to the Olympics. So that was my first like kind of goal. And but I played all the sports growing up, like all the sports. I loved sports. I love being active, and I went into high school wanting to pursue sports, and my goal was to get a scholarship. I wanted to go to the States, and no one in my area has ever got like a scholarship for football. We had a couple of track people, but not football. So I was just really hungry and really ambitious going into high school, and I was a pure athlete. Like bodybuilding was cool. Like I wanted to have a cool physique too, but I trained for sports, not for bodybuilding in high school.
Right, right. Yep, definitely makes sense. Now, your dad's influence on you in terms of pushing you or getting you into sports sounds like it was a pretty strong influence. So, did you growing up, did you enjoy and kind of like your dad's drive to kind of get you into sports, or at some point did that kind of wear on you and take its toll on you, or not necessarily?
That's a really good question, because that's one thing that my dad brings up sometimes is my older brother. Sometimes he feels like he may have pushed him a bit. My older brother was a really good athlete too. He was a bronze medalist at the Pan Am American Games in the decathlon. He had a full scholarship for track too. Very, very good athlete, but uh, he had some doubts about sports here and there. And my dad always kind of questioned whether he may have pushed us too much, but I don't, not at all. Like me and my brother always loved everything we did. My dad's he's a high school elementary school principal, so like he knows a little bit about discipline. But my dad was never like, he never like pushed us. I always wanted to do these things. My dad is by far the greatest influence in my life. Like I don't know where I would be without him. Like he took me, I would be honestly nothing without him. He took me to all these camps in the States. Like Canada has good athletes. Like we have really good athletes here. The only difference is we don't have as much opportunity. And my father took me to all these camps. I remember going to Rutgers 7-on-7 camp, and I ended up like doing really well. And he took me to Pittsburgh camp. I went all the way down to Texas for a camp. My dad would take me to all these camps, and most kids, they weren't fortunate enough to have a father that would do that. My dad was just, he was so on point with like when you're an international kid too, trying to get a scholarship. There's a lot of little things you got to do to get to be able to be a D1 athlete. Like for a big one was that he forced me to take like university classes in high school. Like he made me. I'm not naturally a good student, but he pushed me in the school, and I was actually finished with like an 86 average in high school, and I'm not naturally smart at all. But that was all because of my father. My father is biggest influence in my life. Also, like when it comes to bodybuilding, like we can get into it in a bit, but like he has been such, he's done so many amazing things for me to kickstart my bodybuilding journey. And I can go into more depth with it if you want, but that's
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
that's very cool. That's very cool. I love it. It's always great to hear people that had, a strong dad influence, a strong family influence, because the stats don't lie. When young people have that strong family bond or have a strong mom and dad in their lives growing up, I mean, again, the stats don't lie. It really sets kids up for success. Not all of them are quote unquote successful, but it definitely helps us get off on the right foot. So I love hearing that. Now, out of all the sports that you played when you were younger, Trent, did you find one of them that you had a little bit more of a passion and love for? If so, which sport was that?
No, definitely track and football. I was um naturally my build is for football. Like I ended up doing football because I actually broke a bone in my back throwing javelin. I was a part of this young development. Canada was developing a young pool of Olympic potential athletes. I used to train in Toronto with some of the best athletes in the world. I mean, in Canada, in order to make the Olympics for 2012, I think it was 2012 Olympics. The aim was for me to go to. And what happened was we ended up finding out. I went to sell the best specialist in Toronto that I had a small break in my lower lumbar. My transverse process is the horizontal part of the vertebrae near the lower lumbar, and it was cracked completely. And they basically said that I wouldn't be able to train at the highest level to continue doing javelin. Like it would be very painful. And that's when I switched from more of a track to a football focus. But I was my abilities was better at track. Like I was very explosive. I'm long. I have like 6'7" wing, like a 6'6", 6'7" arm span, and I could throw a baseball like close to 90 miles per hour in high school. I had like an absolute cannon for an arm. So naturally, I was probably going to end up going to Olympics easily in javelin. But I found out I had a break, so it's like I was good at football too at the time, but football wasn't very prominent in Canada. So that's when I switched to football and lifting weights. And that's kind of I started lifting weights and I played football, and the rest is history. But naturally, I was really better at track, but my build ended up being better for football because I ended up finishing my senior year. I weighed 240 pounds, is like lean. Like I was probably around 9%, 9-10% body fat, 240 in high school, naturally.
Nice, man. Um, now, you know, did you have like there in Canada? Obviously, there's pro sports teams and stuff, but as a kid growing up, what were some of your favorite sports teams? Were there some athletes when you were growing up that you really admired or idolized or
Yeah.
looked up to? In terms of like basketball, football, kind of some of the main sports. If so, who were some of those teams and athletes that you looked up to, Trent, as a kid?
I've always been like a huge LeBron James fan. Like ever since he entered the NBA, I got his jersey his first year, and he's in year 20. So 20 years ago, I got his jersey, and I was been a big fan, huge fan of LeBron James. I just feel like to me, like the physical dominance. Like I was always a kid that was a little bit bigger, a little bit faster than everyone. I just loved the display of physical dominance I saw from him, and just absolute greatness. And I just think he's like a quality person too. I've always been a big fan of LeBron. Um, Huge fan of LeBron. Other than him, uh, I mean, mainly LeBron. I would say LeBron.
Okay, cool. Any favorite football teams or basketball teams or any teams that you really liked growing up?
I really liked my first love was the Kansas City Chiefs. You guys probably don't know this player, but his name was Dante Hall. He was a returner and he was like one of the most exciting players. That's when I first started watching football. And I remember watching like the Kansas City play, and they had a pretty exciting team. And I remember seeing Dante Hall, who was a punt returner and a little bit of receiver. I just found he was kind of one of the players that really made me fall in love with football, just how exciting he was. And I played running back in high school, so like I wanted to be like Dante Hall, even though I was a much bigger dude. I wanted to do the jukes and the explosive moves. I wanted to be. I just find football players like such phenomenal athletes. And when I watched them on the field, it was the things they can do. It was just so exciting for me when I watched the NFL. Started watching NFL. I'm like, yeah, I want to be like these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so I live in Iowa, which is in the States, and Kansas City is probably, I'd say maybe like 5 hours from where I live. And so I've been to probably 4 or 5 Kansas City Chiefs games in person, and Arrowhead Stadium, man, is it's loud, it's wild, it's crazy, but definitely a great team currently, and they've had some great athletes through the years. So now let's talk a little bit then. Once you graduated high school, Trent, how did life unfold? Where did life take you after you got out of high school?
So it was crazy. I went from playing. I had a full scholarship at the University of Virginia. I had about 6 or 7 offers, but I fell in love with the UVA because of their campus was absolutely gorgeous. And I just had a good feel when I had the visit. I had a really good feel. There were a couple of schools that might have been like, better programs for football, but there's something about UVA was just it was just felt like it was at home. I just felt really good about it. But it was crazy. I went from playing in front of like literally like 20 people in my high school games, like 20 people, to 60,000. And I didn't redshirt my first year. I played right away. And it was just, I had a lot of things that happened my first year. Like I can break it down if you really want. I could be completely honest with you. But I had a lot of stuff happen my first year. And like I honestly 100%, I may write a book one day, but like my football career was crazy. Like the way how everything went down and the stuff I went through to continue playing, and I end up playing professionally in Canada for 3 years. The fact that I was able to do that after some of the things that happened, I think makes me really proud of myself.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, please, why don't you share a little bit about that? Because that's really what I want from this podcast is really just you athletes and the coaches to share your story as much as you're willing to. So why don't you get a little bit into that, please? I think it would be great for people to learn a little bit more about you, Trent.
Okay, well, first off, like most kids that go to a different country, I was a little homesick. It wasn't anything crazy, right? But I was a little homesick, nothing crazy. But I ended up having I was taking summer school as I was trying to get acclimated with the football team. I took summer classes, and what ended up happening was I got in a lot of trouble for plagiarism. Plagiarism. I accidentally like cited some sources that I shouldn't have, and I was I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I don't know what I was thinking. I was being rushed, and it was a deadline, and I was a little overwhelmed with everything, and I kind of just forgot to cite a couple things. And to be honest with you, I think most professors would have took me to the side and would have been like, "Yeah, like you clearly like didn't cite this." Like, but the professor I had, I don't think he was. I don't think he handled it properly, and instead he just like right away took that to the board. And basically, what happened was I was on the edge of being kicked out of school for 2 or 3 years. It was there was a trial that went 2 or 3 years, and every day I woke up not knowing whether I was going to be like in the school or like expelled for 2 or 3 years. That's just the beginning. So my first um when I came into university, I was very developed physically, not mentally. Like I wasn't a very smart football player. I was very raw. I was like a 6'3", 250 pound, like legit 4'4", 40. Like I was very fast. And like in terms of physically, I was by far one of the better players in the team. And some of the coaches were just absolutely blown away with some of my numbers and some of the stuff I could do. I benched like 405 my first year, like over 4 plates, and I squatted well over 5 plates, and I power cleaned like 350 my first year, like as a freshman, which is crazy numbers for a freshman. But the coaches loved me. They're like, yeah, let's just get this guy on the field. But like I didn't really know what I was doing. What ended up happening, make the story short, um, I end up like they made me into an animal basically on the field, and I would try to take people out on kickoff and blah blah blah, and I would always try to I would just try to destroy people. But the thing is, at the university level, there's other guys like that. This isn't high school. There's other guys that can run 4.5 or 4 that are 240. And what happened was, I eventually started running into guys same size, similar strength, and what happened was I ended up developing. I ended up finding out later on, but I ended up developing like a brain bleed. My brain was bleeding, and I had multiple concussions. And at first, basically, I was telling the doctors that I have a concussion. And then eventually, throughout my career, I realized that I only had a couple more left before they were going to pull the plug on me. So what I did was I was so passionate about being an athlete and playing pro football that I was willing to risk everything. And basically, I kept getting concussed, and I wouldn't say anything on the field while still going with like the trial stuff and whatnot. I ended up playing games. I ended up starting my final year, and I remember playing games where like I couldn't see anything on the field, like legit couldn't see anything. I was still like making plays, sacks, and tackle for losses. And basically, when I went to this, I didn't end up getting drafted to the NFL. I thought my agent said I was going to get drafted, but I ended up not getting drafted because I had 7 documented concussions, a broken bone in my back, torn left labrum, my right shoulder subscap complete tear. They couldn't do surgery on because there's a nerve there. My right humerus is cracked. The bicep slips. I had this long list of injuries, but like my pro day, I killed it. Like I ran a 4.5, 240. I jumped 39 inches. I did 34 reps at 225 with a torn pec. I tore my pec in training. I did 34. I was doing close to like 45 when I was prepping. So I had crazy numbers, but basically I ended up playing the CFL for 3 years with a brain bleed. I got a CAT scan. They saw the brain bleed. Eventually I got the brain bleed looked at, and they were like, yeah, like your brain is pretty messed up. If you keep playing, you're going to die. And they were able to indicate based off how dry the blood was that I played with it in university. And I can remember the hit that like I think caused it. So like I think I played with it for like at least 5 years. I was playing with a brain bleed. And I knew something was wrong all along. Like, I didn't think it was my brain was bleeding, but like I like I wanted to be a pro athlete, and I wanted to be a football player, and my whole identity was Trent the football player. And I was willing to risk everything to continue that dream. And like I said, I was playing games where I would look at the scoreboard and like legit couldn't read the score. I didn't even know the time on the scoreboard. Like, so my concussion symptoms is they're weird. I get really bad vision, but like I wouldn't feel too out of it. Like I could still talk and be pretty normal. So like trainers wouldn't really know, or like I couldn't see anything, and it would last between 15, sometimes as much as 35 minutes before the vision would start to come back a bit. But then I would start to get like aches in my head and some headaches. And I remember playing through it, and I just played through it, and eventually like I couldn't play through it anymore.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I mean, did your parents ever have a talk with you, or did your dad ever talk to you about anything, or did you not really share that with this information with them at that point?
I shared a little bit, but not too much because I ultimately I love my parents and I don't want them to be too worried. I they love coming to my games. Like there's no they take so much pride in seeing me play out there. We come to the games and whatnot. I wanted it to be an enjoyable experience for them. I didn't want it to be like them sitting like, is Trent gonna like die in the fields, right? So I shared a little bit, but not too much because I wanted. Ultimately, I knew what it was. I knew what was at stake, and I was willing to play through it, regardless of what anyone said.
Yeah.
I even when they said I had the brain bleed, I still was like, "Yo, let me play. Let me finish the season." And they're like, "No, like you could die." They're like, the doctor's like, "Do you want to have a family and kids?" And that's when it kind of hit home a bit. It's like because I really want to have a family and kids one day. And it's like, like I doubt I'm going to die in the field, but like, come on.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting, man. So once you got done playing college football, what was life like then? Is that when you kind of got into bodybuilding? Why don't you share a little bit about post college then, Trent?
Well, I went down to Florida. I trained for the NFL. I was supposed to get drafted. I ended up going to the Jets training camp and getting cut. Jets training camp didn't make the team. To be honest, they were never going to sign me regardless. My medical history was too. I was an investment. I was like a borderline guy, like a special teams guy. You're not going to sign a guy who has the injury concerns. Like you want some. I'm an investment. It makes sense. I just pretty much was a pylon out there. Then I ended up getting drafted first round into the CFL Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I played defensive end there for 3 years. By the third year, like I knew something was wrong with my head. I went through the hockey team, the Winnipeg Jets, and because I knew if I got my brain looked at from the football staff that something bad could happen, I wanted to get it. So I did my own little thing because I was supposed to get like a pretty good signing bonus after my third year. And I'm like, I don't want them to know like my head is messed up. So I went through the Winnipeg Jets hockey team and they did all the scans and stuff. And they're like, yeah, like we have to tell Winnipeg Blue Bombers that your brain is pretty messed up. Like this is serious stuff. So that happened. You know what's crazy? This is the craziest thing. I almost feel like this was a sign. The exact same day I found out that I couldn't play football anymore, my car was stolen and torched. Like someone just stole my car and torched it. And on the same day that I found out I had to stop playing football. So like the two worst things that ever happened to me happened the exact same day. And to me, like I'm not a believer. I don't really believe in God. I mean, I'm not sure what I believe in yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. But to me, I honestly feel like this was a message. There was I still haven't figured out the importance of this, but there's something significant about this. Whereas like Trent, like you need to get your shit straight and you need to start being smarter or something. Because the two worst things happened the same day and I was devastated. I had an identity crisis. I moved back home, lived with my family. I got certified to be a firefighter. And to be honest with you, I knew right away that like after I'm one of the only guys that after football, like I put on a bunch of size. You know, most football players they lose the size. So after I finished playing in the CFL, I moved back home and I was angry. Like not like I'm a nice guy, but like I had this burning passion because I never reached my potential in football. Like I knew I could have been like a very good NFL football player. Like there's no doubt. But you can't be a really good football player when you're running around with a brain bleed, you know? So like in my mind, it's like I didn't achieve my potential in football. So it's like I had this burning desire to achieve it somewhere else. And like all along, this is gonna sound a little weird, but like football change rooms, you know, like we're walking around like naked, shirts off, blah blah blah. My whole career, I've always like guys have always been like, holy, like, how do you like get a physique like that? I've always had this like a good physique, and guys are always like, you should do bodybuilding, you should do this. Like, um, you know who Vic Beasley is?
No, I don't think I do.
He was a really good. I think he's in the NFL. He's a defensive end, really good football player. He played for Clemson. I just remember him after the game coming. he plays for Clemson, and after the game he came up to me, he's like, dude, like you're so jacked, like why don't you do like bodybuilding, whatever. And I just somehow for some reason that stuck up to me just because like he's a really good football player. And after I finished playing football, I'm like, yeah, like I'm hungry. Like I'm hungry. Like I'm not ready to like get the 9 to 5 job, and I'm not ready to call it quits. Like I'm very passionate still, and like let's put on some size and let's do this. And my plan all along was like I'm gonna move to Ottawa. So at the time, my family lives about an hour outside of Ottawa. I'm gonna move to Ottawa, and I'm gonna train at the gym where Ian Valier trains. I'm gonna go talk to Ian Valier, and I'm gonna ask him to train me. Tell him that I want to be a bodybuilder. That's what I did. I moved to Ottawa literally so I could talk to Ian. I talked to Ian in the gym. He's like, yeah, I heard of you. Like you're a really good athlete. Blah blah blah. Like I would love to take you on. I started working with Ian like 3 or 4 years ago, and he taught me like the basics, and that's where it kind of kick started. I started training at this gym, Good Life, where Ian was training, and he started coaching me about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's when the bodybuilding kick started.
Mm. Okay, so before we take a really deep dive into bodybuilding, Trent, you kind of mentioned a little bit about football being your identity. Being an athlete was your identity. And I played a year of college football, and then I quit and transferred schools, and then just went to school and graduated. But I grew up like you. I wasn't the athlete that you were or are, but I grew up playing sports. And once I quit football in college after my freshman year, at the time I didn't know it, but now looking back, I know that I literally went through an identity crisis, right? Because all of my positive reinforcement, everything about Quentin was sports, and I was very narrowly focused on sports and the next season and all this stuff, right? So you mentioned like your identity being wrapped up in football. So was there a period between when you were done playing professional football and when you started really getting into bodybuilding that you had like that identity crisis? And if so, talk about that a little bit, because I've had a lot of athletes, bodybuilders on the podcast that were, played at Alabama and Division I athletes. And when they're done, when we start talking about this, they basically say the same thing. Like they had an identity crisis and it was really tough for them. So if you went through that, talk about that and how hard it was for you.
Oh, 100%. Like I had the biggest identity crisis. I moved back home. I went from being this studded football player who was supposed to be drafted in the NFL to living in my dad's basement. And I I'm from a small town, so everywhere I went, people were asking me like, Trent, what's wrong with you? And it's like it's none of your business. Like I had a brain injury. Like people were so nosy, and I was depressed for about 6 to 8 months living like that my dad's basement. And I was I was so anxious. Like I'm not naturally kind of an anxious person, so I just like I need to do something. So I just picked up the firefighting. I did this firefighting course that CFL paid for, and I got certified to be a firefighter. I went down to Texas and got certified. And to be honest with you, I came back and I was like, I don't even want to do this. Like I just needed to do something, and I spent all this money. I got certified to be a firefighter, and I realized like I don't even like being a firefighter. But I was very depressed. My whole identity was Trent the football player. Everyone knew me as Trent the football player. Now who am I? Who am I? I'm nobody. And it was by far the toughest of my life. And but the thing is, I used that fuel to start lifting weights, and I slowly started to put on some weight, some size, and I used that fuel. I used that negative energy, and it gave me better lifts. Like I had some of the best lifts when I was like angry and depressed because I used that negative energy and I used it in the gym. The gym has always been a therapy for me, but at that moment in my life, it was everything. The gym was everything for me. Without the gym, I wouldn't go as far as like hurt, like I wouldn't hurt myself, but like I may turn to some other something. Maybe I may be alcoholic, or I don't know. But like gym was to me everything at that time, and I realized that because it was everything, I needed to, devote some more energy, and let's see if I can make it. Let's see if I can make something happen with it too. You know, I was smart though, because I ended up getting I ended up getting two jobs on the side that would pay for my bodybuilding. I wasn't stupid. I feel like most bodybuilders, they go into bodybuilding and they lose all their money doing the bodybuilding. But like I got two solid jobs to pay for the bodybuilding, and I moved to Ottawa and started training with Ian Valier,
Yeah.
who's the best bodybuilder in Canada.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so we're gonna start transitioning into all things bodybuilding. So you moved to Ottawa. Now, how did you find out about Ian? Obviously, he's Canadian like you are, but I mean, where did he kind of pop up on your radar? And then, out of all the people out there, why did you choose to connect with Ian and have him kind of show you the ropes in the beginning?
I've always been kind of big on Instagram, like big on Instagram. Like I go on Instagram a lot, and you know, obviously, if you follow bodybuilding, you probably know who Ian is, especially like if you're from the area. Ian and Chris were kind of like celebrities in Ottawa. I've been following them for a long time, following their content on Instagram. Always been a big fan of theirs, and I always loved like how strong Ian was. Like even when I played football, I was like, whoa! Like I was a really strong football player, but I was never as strong as him. So I was always like, wow! Like imagine if I was that strong on the field. So I really admired his strength, and I always knew that he was a high level bodybuilder. And in my mind, I wanted to work with the best in order to be the best. So I decided I had some buddies that trained at that gym, the Stittsville gym, and they said he trained there. And I'm like, all right. Me and my buddy from Brockville moved up there literally to do bodybuilding together, and we trained at that gym. And my whole goal was to go talk to him in the gym, ask him to train me.
So that's what you did then. You moved to where Ian was living and training. And is that the first contact you had with him, was at that gym where he was training? You just walked up and started chatting, or did you reach out to him through IG first?
I just walked up and started chatting to him, and he knew who I was. He's like, "Oh wow, like Trent, yeah, I know, like who you are." And we had a good conversation. And I asked him if he could coach me right away. I just straight up asked him. I was like, "Yeah, I want you to coach me. Like, I'm really interested in bodybuilding. Like, I'm good with diets. Like, I eat strict. Like when I play football, like I know I can do this." He's like, "Yeah, let's go."
So how long did you work with Ian, and what was that experience like? Did you step on a bodybuilding stage then under his tutelage, or not?
So I worked with Ian for like 2 years. The first year, we did a prep, and it didn't. I couldn't compete because of COVID. There's a competition got canceled, but I did a prep anyways. I finished off my prep, and like I looked by far the best I ever looked. I learned so much from him. A bunch of people were like really impressed with my physique. Um, and then the following year, I prepped with them, and I cared a little too much about size. I try to be too big. My mind, I wanted to be as big as possible. I thought I could just go in there and beat people based off size. Like I weighed 282 my first show, and I was pretty lean. Honestly, I was pretty lean. Probably like, I'm being honest with you, maybe 7 or 8% body fat, which I mean, it's not lean enough, obviously, but I was quite lean. I thought I was, and I ended up losing to a guy who was like 220 that was like really diced and way better posing. I got my first year with Ian, I got humbled big time. Like I did well, like I won my class and I came like second overall. But I got humbled big time because I realized that it's bodybuilding. It's not like it's not, you can't, you need to have the posing and the conditioning down too. You can't just be big. And I was basically just a football player on stage, just big dude. And what ended up happening was I ended up switching coaches after that year, and it had nothing to do with like his knowledge or his coaching or anything. It had to do with the fact that like I felt like I did not know much about bodybuilding, and I still don't know much about bodybuilding. And I need someone to walk me through the process who was going to be a little more invested. And at the time, Ian was thriving with his career, he's just killing it, his businesses and whatnot. And he straight up was telling people like he was trying to not coach, like he's not even coach Chris right now. There's a reason. I think there's a reason for it. I think Ian's focusing on his career. He's doing really well in his career. He wants to finish off his career, putting all his time and energy into his career. I have no problem with that at all. I am really honored to be able to work with him. I just felt like I needed someone who was going to be walk me through the process a little more, because I honestly don't know what I'm doing. I know I have potential. I just need a little more guidance. And Ian was just a busy guy. He's got stuff going on. Take no offense to it at all, but I ended up switching coaches this year, and I'm with a new coach right now, Coach Little Joe, who's also a pro, good bodybuilder.
Yeah. So your current coach is Joe Seaman, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why don't you talk about, going over to have IFBB Pro Joe Seaman coach you. How has that process been? And your guys' first competition together was this year. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, we did nationals together. It was something that was kind of pushed a little bit. Like I wasn't quite ready for it, but we did it anyways, just for the experience. I didn't think I was going to win it, but I really wanted to get the experience. I feel like you have to. I'm not scared to fail. That's the thing with me, is like I'm not scared to fail. Like I'm going to put myself out there and compete against the best. And I wasn't lean enough, and my posing wasn't good enough. But like, if you saw me on stage, like if you were there watching the show, and a lot of people told me like I stood out like a sore thumb. Like my potential is obvious, and everyone knows it. It's just it was my first time doing nationals, but we didn't peak right. He doesn't know my body fully, and it takes time. But Joe is just he's just more invested, like with his coaching. Like he makes I think he makes more of his money through coaching. Like he's more invested in coaching, and he'll send me like paragraphs. Like I'll send him my updates, and he'll send me like massive paragraphs, and like really I need that. I need more like I don't know what's going on. Like I don't know why I'm taking this. I don't know like why we're doing this. He'll give me more explanation. I'm learning more, and he's a little like he's faster at responding. He's so just a little more invested, that's all. And we finally got my body figured out. I can tell you like what we figured out, but we got my body figured out. I'm already down. I dropped 11 pounds since nationals, and I'm 265 right now, and I'm bringing like some heat with the conditioning right now. I'm probably 6% body fat, way better look. I'm bringing a way better look, and um, I'm just really, really excited for this next competition. I think I'm going to bring something to the table that people are going to be impressed with.
Yeah. So you're 5 days out from what competition, Trent?
The Flex Lewis, like regional in Moncton. It's out East Coast Canada. It's a pretty big regional show, and it's a chance for me to showcase, my hard work over the last 3 weeks from nationals, which I'm going to look completely different.
And I'm assuming your focus on this Flex Lewis show is to win the overall. Am I correct?
The plan is to win the overall. I'm going into it with a completely open mind. You never know who's going to show up. I'm going in there. All I care about is bringing a way better look than nationals, which I already have. I'm very proud. Honestly, I'm already proud. Whatever place I get, I'll be totally okay with, because I look 100 times better than I did before. I've done everything I was supposed to, but the aim and the goal is to win the show. I know I have the ability. But like I said, you never know who's going to show up. I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm just going to go there and have fun. And I got my bunch of family members going to be there, because my dad's from the East Coast. So I think to me, it's going to be like a movie, like being up there with my family watching. I got like 10 people there. We're getting an Airbnb, and we're all going to go out and get food afterwards. And I've never been so excited in my entire life, if I'm being honest with you.
Cool, man. Now, once this competition's over, are you going to be competing again this year, or are you guys shutting it down for the rest of 2022?
It's yet to be determined, because I talked to the judges for nationals, and I was told that like I have all the size in the world. Like I don't need to put on a ton of size anywhere. Like I'm 265 right now. I guess that should be enough size to do some damage at the amateur level. As a pro level, I would have to put on like 5, 10, or 20 pounds. But what I need is better presentation and better posing. And from my experience, I'll use it. I'll use a football example. In practice, I would get like 10 sacks a game in practice. Like I was dominating people in practice, just looking amazing. But when I went to play games, I was like not making plays. It didn't make any sense. What I realized is you can't substitute actual stage experience from posing in your bathroom. So like to me, it's like I got this. It took me 20 weeks, 23 weeks to get this lean, right? Why not get some experience, get some stage presence, get some posing practice on an actual stage than posing in my bathroom? So we're gonna do this competition in Moncton. I'm gonna see how I look, if I and how everything goes down. If I really like kill it, like my posing's good, my presentation's good, my condition's good, then we may shut it down. But like if there's still room to improve, like I'm doing this, I'm always trying to improve, I'm always trying to bring the best I can to the stage. And I'm super young. This is only like my second year competing. So if there's room for improvement, I'm going to do another show. There's another show. Niagara is the 5th. Niagara is the 5th. So it's a week later. I wouldn't even really have to really diet. I'd already be pretty much ready. And then there's also King Kong Classic, which is 2 weeks after that. I could do that too. And to be honest with you, I just enjoy this. This is fun. Like to me, this is like, I like being in this like controlled chaos, I would call it. Like I'm always on edge, but I like it. And there's no better feeling than having family members and friends come to these shows and like go through these adventures with you. Like I want to go through another adventure and maybe do another show and have a bunch of friends come up, get an Airbnb, eat some good food after the show. Like we'll wait and see. I'm going to take one show at a time, but I'm a believer in like, I'm a believer if you want to get better at something, you do that specific thing. I feel like nowadays people are doing like all these other things to get better at it. It's like you want to be better at bodybuilding, do bodybuilding competitions. That's my opinion.
Makes a lot of sense, man. Now, what is your? I know you're young in terms of bodybuilding, experience, but do you have an ultimate bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding goal that you have in mind? And if so, Trent, what would that be?
My goal is to my it's simple. I want to attain. I have a certain look in my head. I want to attain this look, like my dream physique. And at the end of the day, bodybuilding is very subjective. If that fit look and that is not a winning look, then I'm okay with that. I'm going for a specific look. Like I want to look like a big version classic bodybuilder, but like bigger. Like almost like an Arnold, but it's like bigger legs. I want to look like a I really like I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong, but Rafael, the Brazilian guy.
Rafael Brandao.
Yeah, I really like his physique. Like he looks to me, he looks like a bigger classic dude. Just looks like a clean physique. I want to achieve a physique like similar to that. Like I want a nice, clean physique, and I'm not trying to put on a ton of size. Like I really don't want to. I want to be healthy. I haven't played around with any like GH or anything, and I don't plan on it. I want to like have a nice clean physique. I don't want to have like extended gut or anything. I want to have a nice clean, like a bigger classic. Like I love Chris Bumstead's physique, but just I wish he was like a little bit bigger. I should like those guys are a little small in my eyes. They look a little small. They have great physiques, I want like a bigger classic look. And I mean, if that gets the pro card, then great. If it doesn't. I would like to get my pro card. I think it'd be a huge accomplishment. I would love to be able to say I was a pro athlete and a pro football player and a pro bodybuilder. Like that's my ultimate goal. But I'm not. I'm not. I don't want to set myself up for failure because I am a taller guy, and ultimately I want to just I want to attain my. I get into. I'm doing. I lift weights because there's a physique I'm trying to attain, and no judge is going to tell me like my physique is good or not. Like it's ultimately it's in the image in my head. If I step on stage and I look dope and I like the way I look, then I'm happy. If I come last, it is what it is.
Yeah, I love that perspective, man. You know who Jamie Johal is, right? Jamie the Giant.
Yeah,
What do you think about his physique? I personally think for somebody that's 6'6", I mean, his physique is just unreal. I mean, I love it. What do you think about his physique?
yeah, I really like his physique, and like to be honest with you, my perspective kind of was built around like kind of what's going on with him because I really feel like he should be placing higher. I just feel like because like it's notorious, like it's mainly shorter guys usually do well. I feel like the judges are not ready to like let some of these taller guys break through. Do I think he? I think he's capable of winning a show. Um, I don't think the judges are judging him properly. Like the guy, at the end of the day, like the guy is so much bigger. He's so much bigger than these guys. It's like, and his waist is tiny. That's why I have a very that's why based off of him, that's why I have a certain outlook on the sport because I realized that like someone like him with that great of physique is not placing well, and he's like what 6'5"? Is he 6'4"?
I think he's 6'6". It says on his IG that he's 6'6", I believe.
Oh wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm six. I didn't know he was that tall. Six. I'm 6'3", so like I'm in the realm of not quite as tall as him, but like I can see myself if I was to ever get to that level being judged similarly, losing to like the shorter, stocky physique, even though like ultimately you're way bigger, right? I just think that he deserves better placing. I don't know about winning, but like the placing he got, I disagree with. Like I think some of these taller guys should. Like Quentin Beastwood, like he's tall too. Like I just feel like I feel like give him like a year or two and he's going to be winning shows definitely.
Yeah.
But I just feel like these taller guys, the judges aren't giving these taller guys much love in these shows, and that's why it's like at the end of the day, you can't put your happiness based off of what these judges say. Like Quentin Beastwood looks insane. His physique is really good. The AKA Giant, his physique is really good. Ultimately, these guys should be proud of their physiques, regardless of how they place. I feel like traditionally these shorter guys they win shows, so it's just like it's hard to put like these taller guys ahead. I just feel like there's like a formula for how they're judging, and it's just like if you're a taller guy, you have to be like that much better.
Yeah. Speaking of Quentin Beastwood on Instagram, Quint Beastwood, he's been on the podcast, super humble guy, super cool. And if he puts on the size, I believe that he is a potential future Mr. Olympia. I mean, I've had a lot of Canadian guys on here that train out of Pure Muscle. And I mean, guy after guy say that in person, he's the freakiest bodybuilder that they've ever seen. And it's like, dude, when he just takes like a relaxed photo and posts it on Instagram, I mean, and the bubbly muscle and the shape, it's like, I mean, it's just I think a bigger version of Flex Wheeler. Wouldn't you agree, Trent?
I 100% agree. I just he looks like to me he looks like an NFL defensive end. Well, I just like started bodybuilding. Like to me, he looks uh like that's a look I want. Um, I apologize for my opinion, but I'm just gonna be blunt. Like a lot of people are saying, like when I was on stage, like some of the guys I was losing to were like 5'5", like 5'8", 5'7", like a little ball of muscle, right? And it's like the question was asked, like, whose physique would you rather have? Like me, the 6'3", 270, like looking athletic and functional, or like kind of the meatball look, you know? And it's like most people would pick like Quentin Beastwood's physique over some of the guys that are beating him. Like I would 100% take his physique over any of the guys that beat him. 100%. He's he's taller, longer, like athletic looking. He just looks good to me. His frame, he holds the weight good, and his waist is tiny. His muscles are bubbly. He has a freaky look. To me, it's like you see some of these guys that win these shows, and like I've seen them before, like at competitions, and like in their t-shirt and shorts, and like these guys don't look impressive at all to me. But you see someone like Quentin Beastwood in a t-shirt and shorts, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? And to me, it's like, how is that not like something that's factored into like judging? Like, it's just I don't know. Like, who would you rather be? Like, ask people these questions. Like, who would you rather? Whose physique would you rather have? Quentin Beastwood or like one of these like 5'5", 200-pound guys physiques? You know, I don't know. I'm biased. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm tall too. But it's like his physique is ideal. Like, why would you not want to be taller with the size?
I hear you, man. I think that's kind of one of the great things about bodybuilding to me, Trent, is there's different heights, there's different colors, there's different genetics, and it really is, up to you to kind of shape that physique, right? It's all about the work and putting in the time, and it's really what makes bodybuilding beautiful to me. There's all shapes and sizes and colors and genetics. So, I want to ask you, Trent, a little bit about your training now. Obviously, you've been lifting weights since you were very young, training mostly for sport. But as a bodybuilder, what does your training kind of currently look like?
So I used to train like when I play football, my reps were more explosive. And like over the last 2 years, I've noticed a huge amount of growth based off of slowing down my reps, more time on retention stuff. And in my mind, when I started doing bodybuilding, I wanted huge quads. I wanted massive quads and massive arms. So I always wanted. I wanted to stand out with massive quads and massive arms. My arms are like 20 over 22 inches pumped, and my legs have gotten noticeably bigger over the last 2 years. And um, my quad workouts are by far the most intense workouts. I do in terms of splits, like bro splits, where I go like back arms. I start with my weakest body part first of the week because I feel like you're the most fueled, most energy, and you're able to hit that twice. So I'm able to hit twice. Like my chest was kind of lacking, so I at least hit chest first. And then I can usually hit like maybe like a higher volume chest near the end of the week. But I train for about 2 hours long, and then I usually do like a little cardio session at the end. I do fasted cardio in the morning. Fasted cardio in the morning, I'll do a 2 hour lift with like a little bit of cardio at the end, and I'll take maybe one, sometimes 2 days off a week, depending on how I feel. Um, I'm a believer in more high volume training. I like going 10, 15, maybe even 20. I'm also a believer in doing like finisher sets where I'll do sometimes more off season, not prep right now, but like I'll go like 100 reps to finish off like on arms or something like that, or 100 reps on something, or I'll do like my favorite type of sets are I like rest pause. I feel like they're most effective. You rest for about 30 seconds and hit it again. I feel like they're the most effective sets. I also like drop sets. I My back is also a weak point of mine, like the lower back thickness. So I've really been working on that big time. Doing a lot of reverse lat pull downs. I really like the incline reverse dumbbells where you're pulling, you're facing the opposite way of the bench, and you're pulling back with your elbows opposed to pulling up. I'm pulling back my elbows and trying to hit the like the erectors in the lower back and the lower back thickness. I In terms of my quad workouts, I love doing quad extensions. Sometimes I'll do them like 2 or 3 times a workout. I just feel really good connection with them. And but also obviously hack squats are the most. I think hack squats and reverse band leg press to me have been the most effective over the last 6 months in terms of my legs. I found made a biggest difference was like in terms of cardio. Like I was doing Stairmaster for a while, but I found doing what's the bike? It's like you would never think this, but like the pendulum bike, the bike where it's like old people use, the one where you're like sitting down with the seat, but the angle of it, I'm not lying. When I started doing that, the angle of it hit my quads. Like when I push, I would go like level 15 to 17. The way it would hit my quads, it started bringing in new cuts to my quads when I was in prep. Like within a couple of weeks, I'm like, how are my quads coming in so crazy? And that bike, I looked it up and I talked to some other coaches. I didn't talk to them, but I saw them post it. That bike is actually like known to really hit the quads and bring in more separation in the quads. I don't know if you know what it's called. It starts with P, but like the bike with the seat on it, like you see like old people use, but the angle of it when you're doing cardio, it really brings in different cuts in your quads. And I posted something on my story today. Last 3 weeks, I started hitting it more often. Obviously, you can't like you can't pick certain areas that lose fat. Like you just gotta lose fat. But it really brought in more cuts though. Like it made my legs more cut. Like you can build muscle and it can make the fat look less. But obviously, I got more condition, but also that bike helped so much. I forget what it's called. I wish I knew what it's called, but to me that made a huge difference. That bike, I started doing this special bike, and it really targets my quads. And there's a lot of cardio machines where people don't understand it, but like they look for the easy way out, where like you don't really feel anything. Like so, elliptical, for example, it's great, but like you're floating, you don't really feel any muscle contraction, right? You're kind of just floating with it. But there's certain cardio equipments where it's actually burning the muscle too. It's actually making the muscle more mature and more dense. And I started focusing more on those things. Like Stairmaster, like you're really pounding your legs, right? Like that's definitely working the muscle too. Where like elliptical, you're floating. You're burning calories, but you're floating. You're not actually the fibers aren't actually being worked. I don't know if that makes sense, but
You know what? There's a lot of different ways, Trent, to skin the cat, man. And I think that's another beautiful thing about bodybuilding is like, you got to find what works best for you. And if you connect better on this piece of cardio or on this, lifting movement, then by all means keep doing it. Right, man. That's the name of the game. So we're going to start kind of heading towards the finish line, Trent. Now in terms of your diet, what's your diet kind of currently look like, if you don't mind touching on that for a quick minute?
yeah, no problem. So we finally figured out the diet that works for me, which is kind of sucks, but really, really low carbs for like a week or two, and then like one or sometimes two high carb days in a row. My body responds really well to like no like 500. I'm doing like 50 grams of oats in the morning, and then I'll do like 100 grams of rice before my workout and 100 grams after, and then it's just like straight fish for the rest of the day, like really low carbs, and then like a week or two, I'll get like a higher carb day, and then I'll actually wake up like fuller and like just as light or even lighter. It's weird. I'll get more, and then after that high carb day, I start to lose weight faster. It's weird. Um, Whereas like if I just go like low carbs, if I just do low carbs, like no carbs, I don't lose any weight. But I need to have a high carb day. It like it like really I don't know how, but it really gets my body going, and my body eats up the carbs, and then I end up losing weight. Like my weight just starts to drop. It's crazy. I go real low carbs for like a week or two, and I go real high carbs for like a day or two, and then my body weight will I'll look super full after the carbs, and then my body weight will just start to shoot down. And that's what's been working for me really well. Cool. Before, we were going just low carb for a long extended period of time, and it just wasn't doing anything.
Interesting, man. Okay, where are you still training at the Good Life gym, or where are you training currently, Trent?
Do you like my more lighter workouts at the Good Life and my cardio sessions at Good Life? But the hidden gem of Ottawa gym is called Save On Fitness in Carleton Place. Is about 20 minutes outside of Ottawa. Like Ian trained there in the past. Chris trained there for one of his preps like 2 years ago. He prepped there. It has just really solid equipment. The owner there, he's an absolute beauty. You go to him and be like, yeah, I want this. Can you get this type of equipment? He'll get anything you tell him. They have really, really good leg machines, really good equipment there. Not many people know about this gym, and I live about 20 minutes from it. It's called Save On Fitness. It's starting to become pretty big. Like a lot of bodybuilders are starting to train there, like high level. There's like 6 or 7 at one point, pro bodybuilders that used to train there. Ian still trains there. It's a pretty cool gym. If anyone's in that area, that you come Save On Fitness.
And is that where your coach Joe Seaman trains out of too? Because I've seen him training out of that gym, I think, on his Instagram. It's like black and red and stuff in there.
So that's a different one, but Joe has trained at Save On before, but the one you're talking about is called 613 Lift.
Oh, okay.
It's more in the heart of Ottawa. It's a solid gym too. It was primarily a powerlifting gym originally. They added bodybuilding stuff, but it's a way better location for most bodybuilders because most people live in Ottawa. The gym I go to is like outside of Ottawa. It's not very convenient for most people.
Okay. All right, man. Any gym pet peeves when you're at the gym training? Is there anything that kind of irritates you that people do or don't do?
Biggest irritation is people that like can't read body language, can't take signals. So it's like there's some days where I just want to work out. Like I'm at a time crunch. Like I'm still throughout prep. I've been working throughout prep. I'm still working this week, and I'm peak week. So it's like I need to get my workout in and then go to work. I don't have time to talk. So it's like subtle things. It's like if I'm looking at you, it's like I'm starting to drift, right? I'm starting to drift. Like I'm trying to subtly tell you, like I need to work out. And there's some people that just don't get it. They're going to continue to talk to you, and they don't understand social cues. And like I'm not trying to be mean to you. Like I need to get this workout in.
Gotcha.
That's my pet peeve.
Gotcha. Social cues. I like it, man. Trent, I think we're gonna wrap it up right there, man. I feel like we really covered a lot of the bases in terms of your upbringing and some of your ups, some of your downs, and then now really covered, the transition into bodybuilding. I guess kind of what I want to ask you is, you had that identity struggle post football. Do you feel like bodybuilding has really given you a new identity and has maybe helped you kind of overcome some of those identity crises that you had once you were done being a football player?
Yes, 100%. And also, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually like a low level actor on a YouTube channel called Just Dustin. It's like one of the biggest YouTube channels in Ottawa. We have 5.6 million subscribers, and I do some acting and some funny stuff on there. Like it's a destruction channel where for example, we'll put $10,000 into an armored vehicle. It's like first one to break into this gets the $10,000, and he has a bunch of like special made weapons that we ordered, and it's pretty cool. It's more for kids, but so like I'm kind of known to being like this Just Dustin character, but also a bodybuilder. So like my identity now is, believe it or not, people don't even know me as the football guy anymore. Like I'm known as like the Just Dustin character. Like I'm like an actor on this channel and also like the bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm totally good. Like mentally, I'm totally good. I'm totally good with not being a football player anymore. I'll go to like a grocery store, and I'm not even kidding. I'll have kids come up and ask for pictures. Like some of our videos get over 20 million views, and like the kids love it, and I love making kids happy and entertaining them. Like my one of my jobs is I work with kids who have disabilities, autism. I work with kids who have autism. Like I'm a mentor / caregiver, and I go to their houses and do activities. So I love entertaining people, and I also have aspirations of like going to acting and whatnot. But I'm now known as like Trent, the YouTube guy, YouTube character, and also the bodybuilder. So the football thing is, yeah, I'm totally cool with like not being Trent the football player anymore.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. I love that. That's a great gem to kind of end with. Working with youth and things like that. That's something I'm very passionate about too. So I think it's always great when us adults, those of us that don't have our own kids yet, or don't want our own kids, but we're able to kind of pour into that next generation, man. I respect that a lot. So Trent, we're gonna end it there. Before I do a really quick outro and I let you go, if you have any final thoughts, any final words that you want to leave with us, I'm going to turn it over to you. Give us your Instagram, any shout outs, anything that you want to share in closing. The floor is yours, and then I'll do a quick outro, my man.
Okay, so my Instagram handle is tcorn613. Yeah, I used to play pro football player. I used to be a pro football player. Now I'm do bodybuilding, and I'm a little bit of actor. But I just want to say, like, I really appreciate you. Like, haven't done much in the bodybuilding world, and the fact that you brought me on, even though I haven't, accomplished nearly as much as some of the guys you brought on. I saw the list of some of the guys you brought on, pro bodybuilders, like, high level bodybuilders, and the fact that you brought me on as being just a basic amateur guy, it really means a lot. I really appreciate you bringing me on, and I really hope that I can do some big things and help bring more light to you in your channel. And like I said, it's an honor to be on this channel, and I'm just really blessed to be able to compete still, even after my devastating injury to football. And bodybuilding has brought me a new life, and I love bodybuilding, and I plan on continuing to do it until I reach my dream physique.
Awesome, man. Well, you're very welcome, Trent. And that's kind of the fun thing about this podcast is it's not always about bringing on, the IFBB pros and those type of guys. I really like to find guys that are on the come up, because most of us can kind of relate to you guys more so than an Ian or a Nick Walker or somebody like that. So, it's not all about the bodybuilding accolades. It's really just about finding people that are on the come up, man, and they want to share their story. So thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to kind of continuing to follow your bodybuilding story. Okay, man?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Trent. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle Podcast, thank you so very much. A couple of quick things as we wrap up this great chat today with Trent. I would just ask that if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Also, please take this episode with Trent, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Trent, tag Trent's coach, Joe Seaman, on Instagram, and then also make sure you tag Behind the Muscle Podcast. That's a great way for people that have not found BTM to find it. They're going to watch, they're going to listen, and they're going to be positively impacted by these coaches and athletes' life stories and bodybuilding stories that they're willing to share on Behind the Muscle Podcast. So make sure you share this episode on your IG, and then I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.